What's your favorite Resident Evil movie? Mine's got to be number 3. It's basically Mad Max with zombies, and at age 16, I had a giant crush on Kmart. It's day 107 of 365. Today's movie, Resident Evil Afterlife. The zombies may be undead, but my Patreon is very much alive with over 150 posts, including these daily Stub reviews, exclusive vodcast, and a peek at my upcoming book. You can check all that out at the link in my profile. This movie's directed by Milla Jovovich's husband, Paul W.S. Anderson, and stars Jovovich as well as Larter and Wentworth Miller. This is the 4th film in the franchise before they would reboot it twice, actually, which is kind of crazy because this is basically the little franchise that could. It's honestly amazing that they've got so many movies out of this since the end of the 90s. I think it often goes unsung as one of those franchises with multiple entries with one cohesive creative vision. Say what you will about that creative vision's quality, but it is cohesive. You don't get to things like the MCU and the DCEU without filmmakers like this going out and trying to make lots of movies in a series that are all connected to each other. This isn't the first one to do it, but it's the first one to do it in front of major blockbuster American audiences. Now, specifically Afterlife, on the other hand, is more of a film after birth. This one is just nonsensical, it's plotless, it's meandering, it's really functionally very difficult to watch, which I think is unfortunate because the first 3 movies in the original Resident Evil run are pretty good. I like them as a trilogy. I think the issue is Anderson is too focused on making every single iota, every moment as cool as possible and just misses the forest for the trees. There's no movie in this movie, there's just a bunch of moments. This is actually a tough one to figure out 3 moments that I really love about it, but let's slash our way through this zombie mob and see if I can find those 3 things. The first thing that you could say I at least like about this movie is the opening. Now, the homage here is kind of crazy, but he's trying to do The Matrix and Akira to open his movie. I think Anderson is really reaching for the stars here, and there are aspects of it that I'm genuinely impressed by. If you had been watching the movies up to this point, you knew that this was going to be a crazy, clone-induced nightmare for Wesker. And what a cool introduction for that character as well. I don't know if we were totally expecting that at this point in the series. We're also going to get other series favorites a little later on in the movie too. It's kind of crazy how much he's trying to cook here. That opening sequence really goes balls to the wall. Now, it breaks every rule of physics possible just to have some of the coolest moments possible. But I appreciate the game, at least. I appreciate what he's going for. This is a director that's all visual, all style, no substance, no story. So if you're not going to have any of those things, it might as well be at the expense of a really cool action sequence with characters that we have learned to love against characters that we love from the games. He's feeding the fans, and so I'll give him that. I can at least say that I enjoyed that aspect. Speaking of cool sequences, the axe-wielding zombie is my number 2. He gets some pretty dope stuff to do. At least one cool scene within the movie down in the bathroom. Now, this was a big, heavy moment for the trailers because people who like Resident Evil movies like the monsters. We're here for the monsters, and he's giving Pyramid Head. He's giving giant boss battle, and that's cool. Now, there's no reason for this in the plot or story, and I'm sorry to be shitting during the times where I'm supposed to be uplifting and complimenting, but unfortunately, there's just nothing around this sequence worth talking about. I just thought it was cool to mention that the design here is excellent, the sequence is cool. If it had been in service of something better, I would have been standing up clapping, because this is the kind of stuff that I watch Resident Evil for. I want to enjoy these sequences, and so in a vacuum, I'm very pleased to watch this clip just alone on YouTube. I'm probably gonna have a good time because the filmmaking involved here is really cool. I've said this about Zack Snyder, and I'll say it about Paul W.S. Anderson. These are guys that know how to put a cool looking thing together. They just don't seem to understand story structure and tone, along with pacing, character development being the heart of a story instead of just being a reason to show the audience as many cool things as they possibly can. Chris Nolan is another one of these, but because he usually pairs with his brother Jonathan, who's an excellent story writer, we get better things from Nolan. Snyder needs his own Jonathan, and I think Paul W.S. Anderson needs his own as well. He's got some bangers in there, and I will go to bat for Event Horizon all day, but mostly because it's visually fantastic and the design work is based on Alien, so that means it has to be deep kind of as a premise. Resident Evil being based on a video game, even the video game itself isn't that deep. If you guys are willing to admit it, I don't know, but I don't see it here, and it's definitely not on display in this movie until you get into cool sequences like an axe-wielding zombie monster that has to get his head blown off with a shotgun. That's kind of dope. The third and final thing that I guess you could say I like about this movie are the hellhounds at the end. Now, this is what I call CGI growing pains. I think I've mentioned this before in other videos, but you don't always get to the best CGI in the world unless you're willing to make creatures like this. This is where CGI artists cut their teeth and learn lessons that turn into some of the most beautiful effects that we could ever see in a movie. You don't get there without having a hellhound have his head turn into a bunch of teeth tentacles. The inspiration for the design behind this came not only from the games, but from Anderson wanting to really push how gross and grotesque he could make the monsters in this movie. We see this along with Wesker and the tentacles that come out of his mouth. This is the stuff that should have been across the entire movie, but instead we just don't get very much of it. So I have to celebrate this just because it's here. Honestly, the reason it's here is, to me, meaning that we should have had more of it, but because we didn't, I'll celebrate these hellhounds and I'll say that I like them, at least. But what do you think? Are you a fan of the Resident Evil series? Are you a forgiver of this movie? Or like Red Letter Media, are you just laughing at how awful this movie can be at times? I know we've been very action movie heavy recently. We've only got one more action movie to talk about, and we're gonna be seeing Red, the one starring Bruce Willis. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow.